Guys, we need to talk about something. Here's a fact. Proof of work blockchains like Bitcoin and Ethereum 1.0 are much less efficient than a proof of stake blockchain like Cardano. You can talk to me all you want about stranded energy and incentivizing the development of sustainable green energy, but none of that changes the fact that those blockchains are much less efficient than Cardano. And not only is it okay for one of the founding entities of Cardano to talk about that, it's actually great. Ready? Let's go. Before we cover the IOG Sustainability Report and everybody has to just come to terms with the fact that we're doing a better job than both Bitcoin and Ethereum at energy efficiency, we're also going to discuss pool extractable value. That's the Cardano version of miner extractable value. A little bit of news out of the Pavia metaverse and a tidbit of information about the Plutus application backend and specifically where we're at on integration. One of the things I love about Cardano is that it's full of very smart people. I don't know if it's because Cardano has this basis in Haskell, and Haskell is such a mathematically compatible programming language, and it attracts all these crazy high IQ characters. But I love that they're in Cardano. Why? For whatever reason they're here. I love that they're here, and I love even more that we occasionally get to sit in on these conversations when they talk about really interesting things. In this case, it's courtesy of Digital Fortress, which is Rick McCracken's stake pool. So in this one, Mark Stopka, who is certainly one of these very smart people in Cardano, takes everyone to school on how miner extractable value, okay, maybe not miner extractable value, but something that they're kind of coining as pool extractable value can still be a thing in Cardano if dApp developers don't plan for preventing it. So what was really interesting about this is that it's a short conversation as far as like long form goes. It's like 35 minutes, not like 4 hours. But at some point in this, he actually cited Alessandro's thread that we covered previously on this channel. Alessandro of Berry Pool and Space Buds and Nami Wallet. He cited Alessandro's thread about multisig for dApp transactions as one centralized layer 2 method to prevent pool extractable value in Cardano. And we should note here that Mark also points out that non-fungible tokens aren't as susceptible to miner extractable value and pool extractable value in this case, since the exploiter isn't going to have an identical token to substitute in. He's just saying that the multi-sig structure here could help prevent MEV/PEV, since there's a mechanism on the dApp side to control transaction sequence and then disrupt front running. Because really when we're talking about miner extractable value or pool extractable value in the context of Cardano, what we're talking about is the fact that anybody running a node. So currently that would be, largely developers and especially stake pool operators. So all the stake pool operators, they can see the mempool. So these are the transactions that are waiting to get included in the blockchain. They can see these transactions before they're actually included in the blockchain. And this is true of blockchains in general. Sure, we could point out some examples that might deviate from that, but largely this has been the case with blockchains throughout the history of blockchains. We have a mempool and it contains these transactions that haven't yet been included. And the people doing the transaction validation, the block producers on the blockchain, can see these transactions. And so what happens is that the people who can see these transactions can do the same kind of front running we've described on this channel in the past. You can go back and look at those past videos that describe exactly how miner extractable value works in Ethereum, and it can work the same way in Cardano. One of the reasons it works so efficiently in Ethereum is because flash loans are I don't want to say an easy thing, but they're a very much a thing in Ethereum. And while people have laid out some theoretical possibilities for flash loans in Cardano, I won't claim to understand them yet or have even looked into them. But in Ethereum, front running of transactions, which we've colloquially called minor extractable value and later maximal extractable value or maximum extractable value to make it sound nicer. It's been a big thing in Ethereum, and while some people see it as a bug, other people see it as a feature, but certainly it's been something that's had some value. And I think it's interesting that not only here is Mark explaining how pool extractable value can be a thing in Cardano, he's also explaining how dApp developers are largely going to be the ones at the wheel in terms of preventing it on their dApps. With things like this kind of multi-sig architecture that Alessandro described in his thread about more efficient NFT drops, and you can go back to our previous video to watch that. But I'm actually glad people are talking about this, and I wish it wasn't even a possibility in Cardano, but I'm glad that smart people like Mark are already thinking about ways to prevent it. You all already know that I love metaverses, so of course I'm very interested in Pavia because it's a promising metaverse, or at least it seems promising to me, and it's actually on the Cardano blockchain. So I'm always very interested in what Pavia is up to. And here we can see Pavia has laid out for us the actual size of the parcels. So I've mentioned before, I think multiple times, that I attend there's a meeting. There's a meeting I attend that happens about once a week. Sometimes this happens like multiple times a week, but usually at least once a week, I attend a meeting in Decentraland. And we meet at a certain parcel. And it's always amazing to people who come to this meeting for the first time how small the parcels actually are in Decentraland. I can't remember. I can't remember the exact dimensions. I guess you'd have to decide what those dimensions would be based on the height of the avatars and how tall you think those avatars are. I don't know how else you scale it. I'm sure somewhere Decentraland has told us how big they think these parcels are, but everybody's always surprised how small the parcels are in Decentraland. Pavia has come through for us. And they're telling us exactly how big the parcels are going to be in Decentraland. So here they're telling us it looks like a single Pavia parcel is going to be 16 meters by 16 meters. And it shows a max build height of 20 meters. This sounds great to me. They point out roughly the size of a megalodon. I love it. I've noticed there's a little bit of an aquatic theme with Pavia. And I've had some people, at least one person, send me a message about kind of a rumor involving something aquatic in Pavia. So I'm kind of curious to see where this aquatic thing goes. And we'll see this repeat in just a second here. Here, Pavia tells us about the size of a 1x2 parcel. That's two parcels together. Unsurprisingly, it is 16 meters wide and 32 meters long. They let us know that's longer than 3 end-to-end London buses. And interestingly, here they say, please refer to max height calculations. So it looks like there may be an increase in size if you have a 2x2. I hope that's the case. And down here, they let us know that if you have an entire estate, this is a 3x3, so 9 parcels together, then it is 48 meters by 48 meters, which is larger than an Olympic size swimming pool. And we see here more of this aquatic theme. I mean, are they trying to tell us something? First it was Megalodon, now it's the Olympic size swimming pool. I'll be curious to see if there's more to this aquatic thing or if this is all just coincidence, but I'm glad to see that these parcels are not tiny. They could have easily gone the route of Decentraland and packed in even more parcels into their initial map. And, they could have maybe sold them for the same price initially. And so that'd be a larger raise of money. But these parcels, I think, are pretty decently sized. I'll take a megalodon size parcel. I can do something with something the size of a megalodon. I think this is going to work just fine. IOHK is finally letting us know, guys, they are now in the process of integrating the PAB to the wallet backend. This is super important. This is the thing we've been waiting for since before Alonso actually kicked off. Since before the Alonzo hard fork combinator event, we've known that the integration of the PAB wouldn't happen at the same time as the Alonzo hard fork combinator event. That was disappointing. Of course, we would have preferred if they could have happened at the same time. They couldn't, and they didn't. And so we're getting the PAB integration now. But a lot of you have been asking lately, what is this PAB thing? What does it do? We've talked about this before on the channel, but luckily IOHK has dropped this great blog article, which is going to do a very good job of explaining exactly what the PAB does. You'll remember this little infographic, this little diagram here. This was in the October Cardano 360, which was the last time, the coverage of that event was the last time we talked about what the PAB does. This side of this diagram is all the on-chain stuff. This side over here is the off-chain stuff. You can see here's a dApp. Here's the dApp we're interacting with. Here's the Cardano node. Here's the wallet of an end user. And here's the PAB. You can see that the PAB kind of sits in between the wallet, the dApp, and the node and all of the on-chain stuff. In fact, that's exactly how IOHK explains the function of the node. They say it acts as an intermediary between Plutus applications, the node, the wallet backend, and end users. Such interaction is made possible by PAB commands, and they say before deploying any dApp to a live production environment, the PAB is going to be the key component that enables developers to create and test dApps locally. This is basically broken into two big activities, what they're calling the read path, that is reading information from the chain, and the write path, where the PAB is actually constructing the transactions that will run the Plutus scripts. The article points out while there have been workarounds, the type that were used by people like Alessandro to build things like the SpaceBuds marketplace, the PAB is really the last piece that's required for dApps to run the way they're supposed to, and to be able to talk to the wallet and to be able to talk to the node and do all the things on the chain that they need to. The PAB is also going to allow all these developers to finally test their dApps. They've been building all this time. They need the PAB to finally test out their dApps. And this isn't going to be like an on switch where the PAB is dropped and suddenly all of the dApps are going to be running. It's going to take some time for the developers to actually test their dApps once they have the PAB. Obviously, they can't know how their dApp is going to interact with the PAB and how it's going to interact with the wallet until the PAB is actually in place. So this isn't going to be an automatic on switch where everything just starts running. It's going to take a little time after the PAB actually drops, but I'm super excited for this. This is the next step towards that place where all the dApps are actually running on the Cardano chain. Here is the IOG Sustainability Report. Apparently people weren't very happy that Cardano, and I know I'm using IOG and Cardano interchangeably here, but hey, let's face it, there are three founding entities of Cardano, and IOHK, IOG, they do a lot for Cardano, not just on the development side, but also on the pushing the ecosystem forward side. Yes, the Cardano Foundation is being built out. They're going to bulk up. They got a bigger budget. They're hiring more people. That's going to happen. But IOHK has been a huge part of the PR push for Cardano all along. And they were always going to talk about this, guys. They were always going to talk about this, thinking that IOG and Cardano weren't going to talk about how much more energy efficient they were than proof of work blockchains is like thinking that Elon Musk wasn't going to talk about how much more efficient Teslas are than internal combustion engine vehicles. This is a huge advantage for Cardano. I know, a huge cottage industry has sprung up around mitigating the argument that Bitcoin is not very energy efficient. And people have done some great lawyering. I mean, that's what it is. It's lawyering. People, it's like you took a bunch of lawyers and you said, hey, come up with some arguments as to why the energy consumption of Bitcoin doesn't matter. And people did a great job because there are very, very smart people in Bitcoin. They're not dumb. They're super smart. Same with Ethereum. all the big proof of work blockchains, they've got legions of fans who would die for Bitcoin, die for Ethereum, and they're smart and they've come up with great arguments. The stranded energy thing is genius. The incentivizing development of sustainable green energy argument, that's genius. But none of it changes the fact that those blockchains are much less energy efficient. They just are. And this document does a really good job of explaining just how much better Cardano is doing at energy efficiency than those other blockchains. And it's a little naive to think that Cardano wouldn't push this argument. Everybody talks their book, and a lot of people hold both Cardano and Bitcoin, and a lot of people hold Cardano and Ethereum, and a lot of people hold all three. So people, it's against their best interest for Cardano to be talking about one of the most sensitive topics about Bitcoin, this taboo topic. It's always been taboo. I've held Bitcoin. I think I bought my first Bitcoin. I got into Bitcoin in that 2012, 2013 period. I think I bought Bitcoin for the first time in 2014. I still have Bitcoin. I've had Bitcoin this entire time. I think intermittently, maybe back in 2014, 2015, there might've been, days where I was trading or something and I didn't have Bitcoin, but I pretty much had Bitcoin going all the way back to those days. And, it's bad for me too. It's bad for me too that Bitcoin is so much less efficient than technology that's much newer like Cardano. But what do you expect? Cardano is leaps and bounds more advanced than Bitcoin in terms of energy efficiency. And they point out some interesting stuff in this paper. For those of you who are, we're all going to talk our book, right? We're all going to talk our book. Everybody who holds both Bitcoin and Ethereum is not going to like Cardano saying bad things about the energy efficiency of those other two blockchains. But what those people should do is just attack the facts, right? I mean, tone and delivery are important too, but I mean, come on, you guys are expecting Elon Musk not to be loud when he talks about how much more efficient Teslas are than like Chevys. He's going to talk about it no matter what, and he's going to be really loud. There's no way around it. It's going to happen. So what I would suggest is that people focus on the facts if they don't like Cardano talking about this. And there's some very interesting facts in this paper. For instance, these ones they've highlighted in green, I think wisely. And I can't vouch for the truth of anything in this paper. I haven't done this research. I don't know. I'm assuming IOG did a great job researching all this. But I mean, it seems like some of the facts they're pushing out there, they cut against the narrative that's been woven by especially the Bitcoin community. I don't know who's right, but I think it's very interesting that again, I don't have any of the data in front of me to know who's right, but I think there's some very interesting statements in here. Like this one, 98% of the computers involved in mining and proof of work. And we've talked about how Bitcoin proof of work mining works on this channel. 98% of the computers involved fail to ever produce transactions. That's some inefficiency, guys. And you can make arguments about how the energy spent, is securing the network, and that's the value in the expenditure of energy. But man, Cardano seems pretty secure to me. And they point out right here, it's 10,000 times more efficient. Cardano is estimated to use 0.01% of the energy of Bitcoin, 10,000 times more efficient. And you know what? There is a gigantic bug bounty in Cardano. If you can crack the Cardano chain, there's a lot of money, lots of billions of dollars in the Cardano chain. What are we at right now? 60 something billion? I don't even know what the exact number is right now, but there's a lot of money in there to be stolen. And yes, there'd be slippage if you cracked the chain. There would be slippage. People would start bailing, so maybe you couldn't really extract that much money, but there would be a lot of money to be made if Cardano wasn't secure. It seems like Cardano is pretty secure. Next up, we have experts point out that the records. So this is the emissions data from India and China are plus or minus 100%. I also, even the days before Cardano, people would confront me with the energy expenditure of Bitcoin. And I would say, hey, all those, all those, all those rigs deployed in China, they're next to dams. That's hydropower. That's clean energy. But here, IOG is pointing out, hey, the records as far as emissions in China might be 100% off. I don't think even in those days, I knew it at that time. Even at that time, I knew. While the mining operations are all telling us that they are, they are located, near dams and it's all hydropower they're using. At the time, I was like, yeah, but how many coal burning plants are they also next to that they're not talking about? So I think the old data that we used to rely on to refute these arguments, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that data was actually correct. I mean, I think there's reason to question whether or not that data was correct coming out of China. But we all know China famously booted all of the Bitcoin mining operations, all the crypto mining operations. And so now the crypto mining is happening in places like Kazakhstan, cited here, the US, Russia. So they repeat that figure 98% of the mining rigs will never solve the puzzle first so they get to mine the next block. We've talked about exactly how that works on the channel, but 98% will never find the nonce that produces a SHA-256 hash that's below the target number first and get to mine the next block. This is a problem when you consider what they're pointing out here. One mining center in Kazakhstan alone is running 50,000 rigs. 50,000 rigs running, and 98% will never get the number first. Okay, so there were a lot of people spouting numbers today. The first thing that a lot of people go to when they're trying to defend the energy efficiency of Bitcoin is they start spouting these figures, and I see all kinds of numbers. Some people say that 75% of the power used to fuel Bitcoin is renewable. 60% of the power used to fuel Bitcoin is renewable. 56% and rising. I see all kinds of numbers. Right here, IOHK is saying 61% of the power used to fuel Bitcoin comes from fossil fuels. So those people who are saying that 56%, 60%, 70% is coming from renewable energy, there's some conflict here. This can't simultaneously be true. We can't have 61% coming from fossil fuels and 50% coming from renewable energy. That's too many percent. Somebody's wrong here. And if I had to guess, I would bet, IOHK is citing Forbes here. If I had to bet, I would guess that IOHK is more correct than the random Twitter poster who's trying to say that 75% is renewable energy. It looks like 61% is fossil fuels. Here's another very interesting stat. Others estimate that the total Bitcoin carbon footprint cancels out the entire greenhouse gas emission reduction of electric vehicles. So all the Teslas, all the Chevy Bolts and Volts, I know I'm citing vehicles that aren't pure electric vehicles even here, all the electric vehicles in China, all of the Porsche electric vehicles, all of them together, they're saying that the carbon footprint of Bitcoin cancels all that out. That's not good, because as we try to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, and plug your ears if you don't believe that greenhouse gas emissions are bad. I know some of you think that's the case. Just plug your ears. We don't have to fight about it. If we're trying to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, the electric vehicle thing is one of our big hopes. That's one of the things that people are the most excited for. If Bitcoin alone is canceling all that out, that's not good. That's not good. So they cite some more figures here, and these are the kinds we're used to seeing. Bitcoin consumes around 110 terawatt hours of energy per year, more than Argentina, the same as Malaysia or Sweden. Ethereum uses as much as Chile, and to produce a ton of CO2 for every non-fungible token. This is the one that I think gets people really upset, because we all know people love NFTs and people love Ethereum NFTs, and they do not like to hear that maybe producing an NFT on Ethereum produces a ton of CO2. People don't like to hear that. I understand why people got so upset about this report, but if it's true, we have to look at the facts, not what we want to be true. We have to look at what's actually true, not what we wish is true, not what we aspirationally hope is going to be true in 5 or 10 years. Facts are facts, and present facts are present facts. Maybe things will change in the future, maybe there is this stranded energy thing, the argument certainly makes sense. We've also got this idea that proof of work blockchains incentivize production of sustainable green energy. Argument makes sense, but the present facts are not really good. And Elon Musk is going to talk about it, right? Cardano is going to talk about this. This is a great thing about Cardano, a great advantage over its competitors. It's naive to think that Cardano wouldn't talk about this. It's a huge advantage. We should talk about this so that the world knows there are cryptos out there that don't use the same amount of energy as Sweden, that don't produce a carbon footprint that cancels out the entire gas emission reduction of EVs. Again, I don't know if any of this is true. I'm just citing what's in this report, so I'm not presenting this as fact. But if I had to guess, I would guess that IOHK probably does a pretty good job researching these things. People also tried to make some arguments today that it was kind of like they were saying, okay, that's great, fine. Maybe you are that much more energy efficient than both Bitcoin and Ethereum, but don't compare yourself to them. It's bad. Somehow it's bad to compare yourself to your competitors. And if you don't think that Bitcoin and Ethereum are competitors to Cardano, you're crazy. There are a ton of people who come into crypto. And when they come into crypto, a lot of people look at those top 10 blockchains and they ask themselves, which ecosystem should I participate in? And some people are going to participate in all of them. Some people are only going to participate in one of them. Some people are going to choose to participate in Bitcoin and not Cardano, or Cardano and not Bitcoin. But that happens. We are direct competitors. I know you can argue that Bitcoin is a store of value and Cardano is a smart contract chain, but we are competing for the participation of consumers in our systems. There is competition there, and it's heavy competition. Asking Cardano not to talk about this huge advantage. It's doing a much better job at this energy efficiency thing, regardless of the mitigating arguments this cottage industry of Bitcoin maximalists has come up with to explain away the energy consumption of Bitcoin. Regardless of those arguments, it's indisputable that Cardano is doing a much better job than those other two blockchains at energy efficiency, and it's competing with them for participation. And these are networks. Network effect is important. Participation is important. They're all participating. They're all competing for participation. And a lot of the world cares about this energy efficiency thing. This is like asking Cardano not to talk about this is like going back 10 years ago and asking Tesla to not talk about the numbers on their cars. Don't talk about the energy efficiency in your cars versus, GM and Ford and Toyota, Honda, Volkswagen. We don't want to hurt the car industry, right? Hey, Tesla, we don't want you to hurt the car industry by talking about the emissions of cars. It would have been ridiculous to make that request. It's ridiculous to make that request now of Cardano. Some people are worried about hurt feelings, and I don't know if they're worried about the Bitcoin people hating us. I think it's largely they're just talking their book. They're investors in both Bitcoin. A lot of people are investors in Bitcoin or in Ethereum as well as in Cardano. And a lot of people just, they are afraid of being in competition. I think they just want we all want the whole crypto space to go up. I think there are bad projects out there and I don't want those projects to go up, but we need to be honest about certain things. There are different levels of energy efficiency in blockchains, and we just need to accept the fact that Cardano is much better than some of its primary competitors. Sure, there are blockchains out there that are probably even more energy efficient than Cardano because they sacrifice some leg of the blockchain trilemma. But we are much better at this than some of our competitors. And it's ridiculous to think that we wouldn't talk about this. I hope this didn't hurt anybody's feelings. I love you all, even if you totally disagree with me, and I'll talk to you soon.